Today we have lesson 13 of the commentary of the words of my perfect teacher. And it's about the 6 transcendent perfection and other modes of conduct, okay? Now to begin with, let's see. Excuse me. Okay. So begin with, let's arouse bodhicitta. That's Mahayana attitude. And also cultivate pure view. That's a Mantrayana attitude. So we could imagine or visualize our environment as a pure land, and sort of like in a pure land, it's like a Sukhavati, and we could imagine we are in the presence of Buddha Amitabha, and together with all the Buddhist bodhisattvas study the Dhamma. Okay, so we start reading, saying, taking refuge to begin with. Okay. Anyone like to start reading this refuge? Adrian, did you lead the reading?
Yeah, sure.
Excuse me, the rest of us, we could put our palm together, okay? Taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. Okay, please go ahead. Thank you.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practice and generosity and so forth, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings.
2 more times.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practice and generosity and so forth, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practice and generosity and so forth, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings.
Thank you. And this is a special generating bodhicitta according to the resultant mantrayana. Okay, and could you read this again too?
I and other sentient beings, infinite in number, have always been Buddhas from the very beginning. In acknowledgement that this is how things are, I generate the mind of supreme awakening. I and other sentient beings, infinite in number, have always been Buddhas from the very beginning. In acknowledgement that this is how things are, I generate the mind of supreme awakening. I and other sentient beings, infinite in number, have always been Buddhas from the very beginning. In acknowledgement that this is how things are, I generate the mind of supreme awakening.
Thank you. And next you could recite this once and the English one. Thank you. 7-9 prayer.
I'm sorry, please don't do this.
Oh, okay.
My pronunciation is terrible.
Okay. Any volunteer? Okay. If not,
I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go if you can hear me.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Hong ogen yuji nyupta saham pe ma de sa dong pola. Ya ting cho ying on chup ne pe ma chung yu chi su ba. Koru kan go mang ko ko te yu yu su dai tu ki. Jun ji la shi shek su so guru pe ma si hi ha.
Thank you. Okay. Now, English. Did you continue?
Sure. In the northwest of the land of Udian, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments, you are renowned as the lotus born, surrounded by many hosts of documents, following in your footsteps like Buddha, calmly inspiring and blessing.
Thank you. Okay, I'll read this. This is a prayer to Jimmy Poncho Rinpoche. In the pure realm of the great sacred site, the 5-peaked mountain, the blessings of Manjushri's wisdom ripened in your mind. Jimmy Poncho, at their feet I pray. Inspire me with their blessings. Transmit the realization of the wisdom mind. Okay. Now we pray to all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas. Homage to the teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior, Manjushri. Homage to the entire loving lineage masters. The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to meet for hundreds and thousands million aeons. Now that I get the chance to see, hear, receive, and practice it, may I understand the ultimate meaning of the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, please generate the Supreme Bodhicitta. Okay, so now we have general taking refuge and general bodhicitta. We'll go to the study. We are learning the words of my perfect teacher, and you know there are three major topics in words of my perfect teacher. The first is the external preliminaries, which include the forethought of turning the mind. And next is internal preliminaries. There's taking refuge, arousing bodhicitta, mandala opening, and guru yoga. And the last one, strictly of transference to the Pure Land. From lesson 1 to now, we've been studying the first one, freedom advantage. But before the real contemplation, Patrul Rinpoche taught the way of listening to Dhamma. The first one is the attitude, which we just went through, was the bodhicitta and the pure will. And the second one is excuse me, I must have touched something. Okay, anyway, the second one is, let me see, excuse me, just, there we go. Okay, sorry. Conduct, okay, the conduct involved what to avoid and what to do, okay? What to avoid, we studied the 3 defects, the path, the 6 stance, and 5 wrong way of remembering. And the last 2 lessons, we've been learning what to do, which is the 4 metaphors. So today we're studying lesson 13, which is the 6 transcendent perfections. Okay, so what are the 6 perfections? I think most of you are pretty familiar with generosity, ethical discipline, patience, joyful effort, which also use some other translation, diligence, meditative concentration. Sometimes you just say concentration. And next one is wisdom. So now we read the what does 6 parameter? What does this parameter mean? A parameter actually means perfection. Sometimes it means go to the other shore, okay, you reach the goal. So this is a very normal and excellent highest qualities. It says here, it says that it symbolizes crossing from the shore of confusion and suffering to the shore of liberation and enlightenment. Usually it's a group of 6 to reach that state of realization. Today we'll learn how to apply these 6 parameters. Okay. Also, the 6th parameter is antidote to specific mental emotional obstacles, help us to transcend challenges and progress toward awakening. So we'll start reading 1 about how to generate bodhicitta. Here we go. First reading. Do we have any volunteer like to read the text reading?
Okay, may I?
Yeah, please.
The 6 transcendent perfections. A person listening to the teaching should practice the 6 transcendent perfections in Sanskrit, paramitas. In finding rest in the nature of mind, Longchenpa said that practicing the transcendent perfection is indispensable. To Mahayana practitioners who aspire to benefit all beings, in addition, the practice of 1 transcendent perfection can simultaneously include all the other 5 perfections. This is the supreme state of Bodhisattva. Thus, all the deeds of the Buddha during his cultural state are encompassed with the 6 transcendent perfections. Therefore, We must integrate the 6 perfections when we listen, study, practice, and propagate the Dharma. Otherwise, we are not necessarily on the Mahayana path. You should not think, I spend my whole day listening to the teachings, so I don't have the opportunity to practice generosity, discipline, patience, and more. How is it possible for me to practice the 6 transcendent perfections? Please do not think this way. Some people used to know little about this, so they chunked the Dharma teachings and instead collecting alms everywhere and donated the money, thinking that by doing they could perfect the practice of generosity. This was very wrong. If you follow the skillful means introduced in this teaching, you can perfect the 6 of the transcendent perfections through attending one Dharma class. In contrast, if you don't follow the skillful means below while listening to the teachings, you won't accumulate merit from practicing the 6 transcendent perfections. Instead, you may generate merely negative karmas. Please pay attention to this. Before receiving teachings, we should all take a moment to adjust our attitude. Ideally, we cultivate the bodhicitta motivation, the altruistic intention of great beings. Should thoughts of self-interest or selfishness arise, they should be dispelled through mindfulness and vigilance. By doing so, listening to the teachings renders genuine meaning. We should not attend teachings simply to maintain a good image in front of others. For instance, some people may fear being judged if they skip Dhamma classes, so they attend merely for appearance and only half listen while sitting in the Dhamma hall. This kind of attitude is incorrect. When listening to teachings, how could we practice the 6 transcendent perfections? The Tantra of Trudeau comprehension of the instructions on all Dhamma practices says, may excellent offerings such as flowers and cushions put the place in order and control your behavior. Do not harm any living being. Have genuine faith in your teacher, listening to his instructions without distraction, and question him in order to dispel your doubts. These are 6 transcendent perfections of a listener.
Thank you, Choyin. Yes. So everybody hear that? So here's for contemplation. When listen to the Dharma, how can we fulfill the 6 parameters in a single session? What merit or benefit does this bring? How do we plan to apply this feature? Okay. So this Choyin just read, send such as flowers and anyway. So I think you know that. Put place in order and control your behavior. Do not harm any living beings. Have genuine faith in your teacher. Listen to his instructions without distraction. And question him in order to dispel doubt. So these are the 6 transcendent perfection as a listener. Okay, what does merit this bring? So it also says that the antidote of these 6 perfections, antidote to our miserliness. Okay, Choyin, would you mind read this again for this?
Sure. What merit does this bring? Generosity or dana, the antidote to greed and miserliness. It opens the heart and fosters selflessness. Discipline or shila, the antidote to malice and disorder. It supports ethical behavior and harmonious relationships. Patience or khanti, the antidote to anger and impatience. It nurtures tolerance, resilience, and compassion. Diligence or virya, the antidote to laziness and apathy. It inspires perseverance and joyful effort. 5th, concentration or dhyana, the antidote to distraction and mental relentlessness. It strengthens focus and mental clarity. 6. Wisdom or prajna, the antidote to ignorance and delusion. It deepens understanding and reveals the nature of reality.
Thank you. So I think we get to know the six perfections better. How do they correct our emotions and so forth. Okay. So now I read the next text. Reading two, going in more detail what to do. Any volunteer to read? Maybe. Debbie, could you read?
Sure. The 6 transcendent perfections pertaining to listening to the teaching. Generosity. Make excellent offerings such as flowers and cushions. Before the teaching starts, prepare the teacher's seat and arrange cushions on it. And the cushion should not be too hard nor too soft. Offer a mandala, flowers, lamps, or others in front of or around the teacher's seat. This is a practice of generosity while listening to teachings. In the past, when a teacher taught, only a limited number of Dharma students could hear in the Dharma hall in person. Nowadays, new technology allows many people living in different places to listen to teachings via TVs, computers, and mobile devices. For such people, where you listen to teachings is equivalent to a Dharma hall, and you should consider these electronic devices the teacher himself. When you listen to teachings in a group in your home, it's better to clean up and decorate the room. If possible, try to provide a good TV for the listeners. Bringing fruits or bottled water to share during group studies is also thoughtful. In all, creating favorable conditions that help people listen to teachings is a practice of generosity. Discipline. Put the place in order and control your behavior. Adopt appropriate conduct from the start to the end of a teaching session. Refrain from whispering to each other, disdaining others, or doing sneaky things. For an ordinary person, it may be difficult to rest in a state of threefold purity, a state beyond any conceptualizations and fabrications. However, it is relatively easy to examine your body, speech, and mind with mindfulness and vigilance, abandon behaviors such as arrogance, and refrain from chit-chat. This is the practice of discipline. Number 3, patience. Do not harm any living beings. When listening to teachings, make sure you do not harm living beings, including insects, deliberately. For instance, when you are bitten by a mosquito on a hot summer day or see ants crawling around, you shouldn't swat them. Do not display a bad temper, verbally abuse, or attack group members. This is bad. In addition, no matter how hot or cold the weather is, how long the teaching is, or how difficult the situations you encounter, you should bear them all. In addition, do not complain that the teachings are too easy or too profound and are unwilling to stay in the classroom. Kempo says, as a school student, I dislike secular subjects such as physics, chemistry, and history. I felt these subjects didn't cover the ultimate reality, so they were not interesting. When I finally encountered the Dharma Larong, I became deeply impressed by every teaching I was given. For example, the Sutra of the Wise and the Fool and the great biography of Buddha Shakyamuni may appear to be ordinary stories, but I find profound meanings embedded in these stories, and I experience indescribable bliss when listening to them. This suggests that perhaps I had listened and contemplated them in previous lives. In sum, we should remain grateful and blissful about whatever we listen to. Holding such an attitude is the practice of patience.
Thank you. I can stop here now. Okay. So, what do you think about it when you hear all this, making a, prepare the seat and so forth? I think for most of the, discipline and the patient, we could appreciate more. But these days, I don't know how many people attend teachings in a monastery in a formal setting. Like this one, this is a KTD in upstate New York. You can see very, very elegant settings. Okay, so and then you can see the flowers and I think the cushions there. But I think most of the people at the monastery, they would do the job. For us, I think right now, we probably, let me see, where is the picture? These days, how do we listen to the teaching? It's a very different setting. Yeah. These are all times when Buddha and teachers sitting in the high throne. This is a campus here. You probably can see. So this is Jimmy Ponto Rinpoche. But these days we listen to environments are very different. You could see like this, His Holiness Dalai Lama. Sometimes he gives teachings through internet and so forth. And he talked to people directly. And this is Campbell speaking in university auditorium, and you could see some of the students, sit higher than the teacher. So this like, oh, is this improper? So I think the situation is a little bit different these days. And here we mostly sitting in front of our personal computer and so forth. So I think maybe we could discuss what to do in this situation if our current situation is so different from the previous one. So what do you think? When you use a computer, a laptop in a home, Campbell said that we should regard our devices as the teacher itself. What do you think? Anybody has some thought about it? Yeah. And how do you show your respect for the teaching?
I think that it's I think that it's an attitude that you bring. I mean, because, most of the time when we are listening to teachers, maybe, most of us are in private, we by ourselves. I just know, just because of the type of person I am, I like to keep, my workspace neat. Anywhere where I have to sit down and concentrate on something, I like to keep my area clean. It's just better for the mind, when you have a clean area. So that's a given, right? But I think that when you sit down to listen to a teaching, it's just an attitude, because um we aren't able to, decorate or anything like that. There's no literal teacher in front of us. So I just feel that if you bring the correct attitude and the right, you try to limit distractions around you and stuff like that, that'll bring, good benefit, good merit from listening to the teaching.
Yes, exactly. You hit the point right there. I think the most important thing is the attitude. Listen and then maybe not try to eat or something right in front of our monitor. Okay. Another thing important I think we could do is when the screen is playing teachings, be very careful not step over it. Or also if any Dharma book are lying around at home or somewhere in the Dharma hall, we have to pay extra attention not to step over it. And that's a little courtesy I think we can do, okay? Okay. So here I think we could read the second one. We are reading, anyone else any point to discuss? Not, we could read reading number 3, diligence, so on. Any volunteer to read?
I could continue.
Okay, please.
Number 4, diligence. Have genuine faith in your teacher. Set aside any wrong views concerning the teacher and the teaching and listen with genuine faith and joy. This is the practice of diligence. Usually, when listening to teachings, you shouldn't be upset or angry, but instead, you should be delighted. This joy arises because of how very rare it is in hundreds of thousands of kalpas to have the opportunity to listen to Mayahana teachings. Such an opportunity doesn't occur by chance, nor can it be attained merely through capacity or courage. It actually requires the accumulation of innumerable merits and causal conditions through many lifetimes. Now that you're fortunate enough to encounter a Mayana teacher and the teachings, you should listen with great joy. Number 5, meditation or concentration. Listen to the instructions without distraction. Do not get distracted by thoughts or external factors in class. When distracted, you won't absorb the profound meanings of the Dharma. Listen wholeheartedly and focus on the teachings. This is the practice of concentration or meditation. Lay aside anything else when listening to teachings. This is a good habit you should form. If you consciously do so from the start, you can always focus your attention on the teachings. In contrast, if you let your mind wander, you can barely remember any teaching. Our mind is like a little kid. If the kid is trained well, he will always behave properly. If untrained, bad habits become hard to correct. Sometimes the teacher explains something very important in class, but the students doodle in their notebooks when they're supposed to be listening to the teacher. If you ask them, what did you learn in the 1-hour class? The teacher taught something. Taught what? Let me think. I don't remember. I'll tell you later then. Isn't it embarrassing? Of course, it is pretty challenging to remain entirely focused for a whole class. Nevertheless, we humans can concentrate better than animals. If a parrot after frequent training is able to recite Om Mani Padme Hum, then we humans should have no problem developing a habit of listening to teachers without distraction. 6, wisdom. Question the teacher to dispel your doubts. When questions arise, you may ask the teacher or discuss the questions with your Dharma peers. By doing so, you will dispel doubts, wrong views, and misconceptions. This is the practice of wisdom.
You want to continue? Go ahead.
Studying Dharma is like refining gold. We must adopt various methods, including vigorous debate, to dispel doubts and reach a conviction by logical reasoning. For instance, we should discuss the teaching with each other after class. Please refrain from getting frustrated in debate. Your Dharma classmates are talking about the Dharma rather than attacking you, so don't get personal. Some lay people feel hurt by unintentional comments from other Buddhists, and the conflict leaves a scar in their minds of both parties. Eventually, the two people refuse to speak with each other. At last, the above discussed the 6 transcendent perfections with regard to listening to teachings. Make sure you practice them accordingly.
Okay, good stuff here. Thank you. So now we went through all the 6 perfections, the parameter of listen to the Dharma. We went through generosity, discipline, the perfection of patience, and is a Dharma whole. Okay, there's a question. At one point that in the teaching it says, let go of any misconception about the teacher or the teaching and listen with joy and sincere faith. This reflects perfection or diligence. Do you think this is a little bit odd? Because you could say, I thought diligence all means working hard. How come this diligence, it says, let go of misconception about teacher and listen with joy and sincere faith? Anybody has some thought about this? Do you wonder why this is so?
I think if we have misconceptions about the teacher or the teachings, like the way we expect a teacher to behave, or the way he should respond and react to different people as they ask questions, or if we think the teachings, I think it said in the reading earlier, if we think the teachings are too easy or too hard, or we've heard this before, then our focus wanders And so the work that we should put in to understand the Dharma and be present, we lose sight of that because we're so focused on thinking about what the teacher should be doing or what we should be hearing. And I guess I'm sharing because I used to have some of that attitude just about, oh, I've heard this before. This is too easy, or this is just too hard, or this makes no sense, or this is like so basic. And I realized that I was missing out when I walked into teachings with that attitude of I'm here to learn and I'm focused, and that requires hard work to be present every single moment for an hour and a half. I realized that even though I was hearing teachings that I've heard before, each time I heard something different or something more added to what I knew before or what I heard before. So I think walking in with that level of diligence that I'm here, I'm present, I am going to concentrate no matter what's being taught and no matter who the teacher is, as long as I respect the teacher, then I think we learn more and we hear more.
Yeah, exactly. This is a matter of attitude, I think. So any other person have some thought about this?
Yeah, I would like to camelback off of what Debbie said. Diligence also too is like, because Vajrayana is all about like transforming the mind, like, and taking like everyday ordinary situations and transforming the way we see them or perceive them so that they can benefit us. So like even if you sit in class and you heard something for the thousandth time, that's good because that's actually training you to never forget, like to remember, so when even when we hear things over and over again, that's a good thing, right? Especially when it comes to the teaching, because that makes it a part of you, and that's how you learn. So diligence is also taking what those bad attitudes or those those the way we perceive things and transforming them, and so that way we gain merit from it and we benefit from it, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, just transform use our mind, and then don't have a preconception. This is interesting, that it's not interesting. Okay.
I can share a thought if you don't mind. My experience with this a little bit has been Buddhist teachings are often a little bit take a little bit of time to explain and to unwrap a little bit, I suppose. And I know at the very beginning, sometimes I would get caught thinking about a point the teacher made early on teaching. And instead of continuing to listen to the rest of the teaching, I would start thinking about this earlier point, and so missed the entire rest of the teaching. So not only did I solve the question I had about the earlier point, I didn't hear that he might have actually explained it. So for me, it was a real discipline to learn to just stop conceptualizing about what was being taught and listen to the whole teaching more openly, and then later on reflect on the entire teaching rather than just trying to do it bit by bit, if that makes sense.
Thank you. That's a good point. If no one else, we can see that. Okay, here we go. Let go of the misconception of the teacher and listen with joy and sincere. I think, actually, we in the beginning with diligence is also enthusiastic effort, right? So this is means the joy that we bring to practice and all that is worthwhile. So we have, joy in our minds. So we just become diligent automatically. And so if we have enthusiasm, it enables us to keep going when we feel tired or overwhelmed. And this is refreshing and inspiring. It comes from mind, like you mentioned, that it's a matter of our mindset. Okay. And then into the aesthetic effort, counters the laziness and bring joy to our lives, as we feel accomplished when we finish what we have started. So this, I think also Shantideva mentioned that diligence is a sense of joy, a joy from your heart. So that is from that diligence come from not external, behavior and so forth. It comes from our mind. So that's why it says that perfection or diligence is let go any misconception, any prejudice about teacher or the teaching, if the teaching is too hard or too profound or too easy, and just listen with joy. Yeah. I think also some master says that the Buddhism or the Dharma is like honey. Wherever you taste it, it's sweet. Okay, that means any topic of Dharma should be helpful for us. We should study it with joy. Okay. Another is meditative concentration. When people see these words, sometimes they conjure up an image, sitting there, with the eye closed, close the eyes, and then the mind is empty and so forth. Okay, so here the concentration is a little bit different. Okay, it does not mean that you sit with your eyes closed and so forth. Here it means the mind is not distracted elsewhere and is focused on listening. So here's meditative concentration. Sometimes it's more emphasis on meditation, but here is emphasis more on the concentration. Okay, and then the wisdom is about understanding what is here and developing insight from listening. So like we discussed before, that sixth perfection is sort of stepwise. Okay, so you learn to concentrate. After concentrate, you hear the teaching, and then you can understand more and develop insight from there. Okay. Anybody else want any point to raise here so far? What do we have learned?
I want to add one thing about the meditation.
Okay.
So meditative concentration, like when here Campo mentioned, is when we listening to the teachings. So with sitting with eyes closed in meditation, it's not engaged in listening. So, and the mind is not distracted. That means the mind is focused on what we need to listen. And I think Campo always mentioned when we listening to the teaching, it's better to look at the book, look at the content. So here the meditation is not listening. It's different than listening to the teaching. It's just the mind keep not distracted, but is not engaged in listening to the teaching.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. It just means concentration. Another thing I think also can mention some other teachings that somebody always think, the teacher said turning the prayer where is very, it's big virtue, it's a good merit. So some people might just use a little handheld prayer wheel, they listen to see in the meantime, just turn around their prayer wheel. But I think Campbell discouraged that because this is sort of a distraction. And some people, I have so many mantras to accumulate, I cannot finish them, so they keep on reciting their mantra, turning their mantra, the mala beads, count how many mantras they are reciting. And that is also not proper. Okay, so the thing when you sit in the classroom, or if we be sitting from a monitor, it's the requirement is that we concentrate on what's taught and not doing multitasking or so forth. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, good point. Okay, we could continue. And then also this sixth parameter can apply to many other activities, other activity, a Dharma activity here specifically. So we could continue reading on that. Yeah, practicing the 6 transcendent perfection while reciting the Buddha name and so forth. Okay. Elaine, you want to read it? You there?
Okay.
Please.
Practicing the 6 transcendent perfections while reciting the Buddha's name. The Venerable Yi, an eminent Chinese Buddhist master, suggests we should practice the 6 transcendent perfections while reciting the Buddha's name wholeheartedly, letting go of attachment to the body, mind, and the world while reciting the perfection of generosity. Restraint from greed, anger, and ignorance during recitation is the perfection of ethical discipline. Avoiding being judgmental of others' affairs or behavior is the perfection of patience. Reciting without interruption or mixing with other practice is the perfection of diligence. Not following wandering thoughts is the perfection of meditative concentration. Remaining free from confusion and mistaken views is the perfection of wisdom. Next, applying the 6 transcendent perfection while sitting free capture animals. The virtual action of life release can also be carried out with all the transcendent perfections. Saving an animal's life is usually considered the practice of generosity by giving protection from fear. It also includes material giving and Dharma giving. From the Theravada perspective, harming no being is the practice of discipline. From the Mahayana perspective, directly and indirectly benefiting beings is the practice of discipline. When engaging in a life release, you harm no one and you help others, so it is the practice of discipline. You bear heat, cold, misunderstanding, criticism, and other hardships, so this is the practice of patience. No matter how tiring and demanding it is, you never stop saving animals and releasing them back into nature. So is the practice of diligence. You don't have any hidden agenda, and all you think of is bringing freedom and happiness to the animals. So is the practice of concentration. You bless the animal through chanting mantras or prayers, hoping to plant seeds of liberation in their mind streams. Or you are free from the free concept of me, animals, and the action of life releasing. So is the practice of wisdom. The 6 transcendent perfections also, I'm sorry, also apply to the teacher when teaching. Generosity involves explaining the teaching without hoping to gain anything, be it praise or become famous. Discipline involves not being sarcastic or scornful of others, and so forth. Patience involves answering questions again and again without getting irritated. Diligence involves tirelessly teaching the Dharma day and night. Concentration involves focusing one's attention on the words and their meanings. Wisdom involves being free from the 3 concepts and inspiring disciples to study and reflect. Speaking of concentration, a teacher must maintain focus while teaching. Without it, they cannot deliver lessons effectively. In contrast, students may be physically present and appear attentive, but their minds might be thousands of miles away. Therefore, concentration is essential for the teacher, while a lack of it in the listener can often go unnoticed. In short, whichever virtual state you are doing, be it listening to or giving teachings, releasing life, reciting mantras, and so forth, make sure you do it with the 6 transcendence perfections.
Thank you. Yeah. So we just went through releasing animals, reciting the Buddha's name, and giving a Dharma talk. They can all embrace the 6 perfections. So please explain each one individually. I think we all know. And what insight does it give you? Okay. Many Chinese, I don't know about Western practitioner in Taiwan, China. We all engaged in chanting Buddha Amitabha's name in hope we can be reborn in his pure land. And also, Jimmy Ponto Rinpoche encourage us to aspire to be reborn in the Sukhavati. So it is important practice, and while reciting the mantra, it's not just accumulating numbers, okay? So in here, we can also practice the 6 perfections. First, we have to give up our attachment and refrain from all the negative emotions. That's discipline. And also, we avoid being judgmental to others' affairs. Okay, don't gossip and so forth. I guess when you're reciting the name, you cannot gossip anymore, right? And then without interruption, here the diligence is a different interpretation. Just reciting without interruption or mixing with the other practice. Okay. And then here, concentration means not to following wandering thought. Okay, so this is a little bit different context than when listening to the teacher. Okay, and then remaining free the confusion and mistaken view is the perfection of wisdom. Okay, and as to the releasing animals, I don't know if anyone of have participate in this activity. Here's one of Campbell's leading. See, all these are the different, I think it's aquatic. They want to release in the river. So all these fishes in there. They first they give them nectar water to bless them, and then recite mantras or teaching to them. So there is generosity. There are 3 kinds of generosity. Given protection, we save their lives, so this is given protection. And material giving, because we have to buy these animals, okay, so we spend money, so this is material giving. And giving Dharma, we recite mantras and teaching to them, so this is giving Dharma. Okay, so in life releasing, this is a very meritorious activity. Okay, it's a discipline. We don't harm them, we benefit them, and we persevere. So this is but I think there are also difficulty these days, because I don't think you can buy live animals much in the United States or foreign countries. And sometimes if we don't know how this animal live, we might hurt them unwittingly. So it's better to figure out where you're going to release the fish and so forth. Okay, that's need a little bit of background study. Okay. And interestingly, also the teacher also had to apply 6 parameters when teaching. Okay, first they teach endlessly day and night, so there's a great generosity with teacher. And then discipline, they not being sarcastic, okay, and patience, and they always answer our questions without getting irritated, okay. And diligence, and then concentration, of course, teacher had to be able to concentrate, okay. Now, the interesting part here also, I think it's mentioned in the early part, is the wisdom involved being free from the concept, okay, and inspiring disciples to study and reflect. Since we're here quite a few times, I think we have discussed a little bit about what is being free from the 3 concepts. What is three concept? Anybody know? Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, please.
It's not the same as the three poisons, is it? Anger, attachment, ignorance. Oh, okay.
Three spheres, okay? Three realms, okay? The three concepts, three spheres, okay? So it is a giver. Suppose we are offering something, we have a giver, right? And we give something, there is a recipient. And then there is a gift, just the act of giving, the intermediate between the giver and the recipient. So these three should be viewed as, with non-conceptual viewing of these three spheres, okay? So how to do that? Usually it's because we have to understand that this is related to the emptiness of aspect. They all appear but had no definite essence or independent nature. Actually, this is a training in emptiness, okay? All things exist as interdependent phenomena. They are not permanent, not singular, or not autonomous, okay? So if we think of the giver, we are all composite with body and mind, and we are not singular. Of course, we are not permanent. We're changing all the time, and we are not autonomous. We cannot, mastermind everything because we are dependent on circumstances. This is one way of to see the three concepts of the spheres. And then I think not too long ago, we also cite the Nagarjuna tree stands on middle way because there's nothing that is not dependent on reason. Therefore, there's nothing that is not empty. So this is one way to look at things, We are empty, our recipient is empty, and the things we're given is empty. Okay, and Nagarjuna also say, whatever is a dependent arising, that has been explained as empty. Independence upon something else, it is imputed as existent. It's just given a name. So this is the middle way. So I think this is actually the sixth parameter, the wisdom aspect. So we realize interdependent reason, and everything's interdependent, so they don't have their self-nature. So that's a way of looking at things. So if we are so-called freedom from the spheres, and there's no giver, okay, because they're empty in nature, then they don't have truly existent themselves. So no recipient or gift. Recognize these are mere labels. You just label them, having no inherent existence. And then with this understanding, we could give without expectation. Instead of giving with expectation something in return, we give up compassion and understanding, okay? And also it's giving without attachment and not clinging to the act of giving as mine, but instead seeing it as a natural expression of dependent arising. And of course, giving is an act of Dharma, seeing giving as a practice that leads to enlightenment and liberation. So if we can maintain this attitude, we imbues our offering with the wisdom aspect. Actually, wisdom is most important among the six parameters. Okay, so which parameter is most important among the six parameters is wisdom. Okay, Nagarjuna said, just as the body needs eyesight, so all other perfection needs wisdom. So, if we practice the first five parameters, it's just like, just like from a relative point of view, it's just it's just like no eyesight. So we need to see the other perfection need wisdom. And also Shantideva says, all the branches of the doctrine, the enlightened sage expound for the sake of wisdom. Therefore, they must cultivate this wisdom, those who wish it and suffering. Okay. So we mentioned that the six parameters: special order, generosity, ethics, patience, diligence, meditation, and wisdom. So this is actually a gradual progression from external action to internal development, actually leading enlightenment. Why is it generosity first? Because this is most easily done. Okay, and another understanding is These 5 parameters are primarily concerned with relative truth, focusing on action, conduct, and mental state beneficial to everyday world. They cultivate to support development wisdom. Okay, so because the first 5 is easy to practice, but they are also support to develop wisdom, because if for development wisdom, we need to accumulate a lot of merit. Okay, so by performing the first 5, it help us develop the wisdom, and then when we have wisdom, we could make the first 5 become embrace with wisdom too. Okay, so the 6th wisdom is linked to the absolute truth, the ultimate reality beyond conventional expression. So if we have wisdom, wisdom can transform the other 5 parameters to become transcendent perfections. Without wisdom, this practice remains worldly and produce only temporary benefit. So we might want to cultivate wisdom in the meantime, doing the first 5, and when our wisdom develop, we could see the emptiness of the 3 spheres. So imbue our action with the emptiness, the realization of emptiness, and then in this sense, we'll cultivate wisdom and merit at the same time. So it's easier for us to attain enlightenment because we need both, like the bird need both wings. Any comment or question on this? About the 3 spheres? It's not 3 poison, okay? Again, it's I mean, just the giver, the recipient, and actually anything can have the 3 spheres. You know, like when we do something good or accumulate, you know, do this and that, and we could regard what we do is the subject and the doer and the action itself. They are all empty in nature. So we have this attitude, we call it the wisdom aspect. And yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. I just wanna add something. So the 3 concepts are all the 3 spheres. Actually, it's a pretty high level practice. So like at this point, we most of us practicing the low level, like accumulate the merit with the first 5 perfection, and then once we develop the wisdom, and then we have these 3 spheres, and then we go back. Then the first 5 can be like practiced with the wisdom. But I think with this teachings, the more like a basic accumulating the merit, and then to develop gradually, because everything we practice are more like the mindset, right? Like enlightened mind, bodhicitta. So we are gradually, once we like probably after a lot of years, and then we can develop finally the wisdom, and then we can go back and encapsulate the first 5 perfections with the wisdom. So then we can, everything we do is the towards the liberation. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good point. Yeah, but I think because we touch upon wisdom, just get some idea what is, and then I think you know, we will slowly pay more attention to it. I think that will also help. Okay, so now let's read reading number 5, other modes of conduct. Anyone to volunteer to read?
I think I'm the only one left.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Other modes of conduct to avoid. Dharma listeners should also conscientiously comply with other modes of conduct. The Vinaya says, do not teach those who have no respect, who cover their heads although in good health, who carry canes, weapons, and parasols, or whose heads are swathed in turbans. This verse lists a few kinds of people who shouldn't be given teachings. We should reflect upon the list to see whether we are qualified Dharma recipients. Who shouldn't be given the Dharma teachings? A. Those who have no respect. When studying secular knowledge, a student knows he should be respectful in pursuing knowledge. When learning the Transcendental Dharma, the student should show even more respect so that he may be granted the teaching. B. Those who cover their heads even though in good health. The student is allowed to cover his head for health reasons. Other than that, if he covers his head, for example, with a shawl, he should not be given teachings. C. Those who carry parasols. Whether it's hot or raining, the students are not allowed to listen under an open umbrella. Of course, you can use an umbrella if the teacher gives special permission. D. Those who carry canes. E. Those who carry weapons. F. Those whose heads are swathed in turbans. I, Kempo, remember when Jigme Kunsat Rinpoche taught us the great perfection of Manjushu on the eastern summit of Mount Butai in Shanxi province. One day around noon, rain was pouring down, and Kunsat Rinpoche told us not to open our umbrellas. He said, "It is now summer, when sparrows won't freeze to death outside. When listening to this teaching, you must show your respect for the Dharma, not holding an umbrella or covering your head with a shawl." All of us were soaking wet, but we kept on listening attentively. There is a similar verse in the way of the Bodhisattva. Do not teach Dharma to the disrespectful, to those who, though not sick, wrap cloths around their heads, to those who carry weapons, staffs, or parasols, to those who are with covered heads. Be sure to comply with the modes of conduct and act accordingly when listening to teachings. Otherwise, your listening can have significant negative consequences, including falling into the animal realm as a parrot. Note, in his commentary on aspiration for rebirth in Sukhavati, Lala Sonam Chudrik states, if one doesn't focus on listening to the Dharma, it will be like pouring water onto an upside-down pot. No teachings will enter one's mind. Meanwhile, if one also engages in idle talk, one creates obstacles to Dharma hearing for oneself and others. This is a misconduct of abandoning the Dharma, which will result in being reborn as a parrot. Emperor Yang's Jeweled Repentance, a classic work of Chinese Buddhism, says, having listened to the Dharma teachings, yet remaining indifferent in mind, this will lead to being reborn as a long-eared donkey. If, after listening to the authentic Dharma, a person remains indifferent or worse, sneers at the teachings, and doesn't put the teachings into practice, such a person will be reborn as a stubborn, long-eared donkey. The text also states, while listening to the Dharma teachings, if one gossips and distracts others from listening, this will lead them to be reborn as a barking dog. Some students dismiss the teaching, and worse, send text messages, eat snacks, or whisper to each other saying, hello, how are you lately? Let's have a private chat, and ignore the lesson. Those who do not uphold proper conduct or distract others from listening to the Dharma will be reborn as barking dogs. By listening to Dharma teachings, we all hope to benefit ourselves and others. Wouldn't it be a shame if, due to misconduct in class, we were reborn as parrots, donkeys, or barking dogs? Therefore, let us remain vigilant and avoid improper behavior.
Thank you. Okay. So we're at the mode of conduct. The reading is very clear. Anybody have a comment on this? I think when I read it, I think, oh, it place a lot of importance on covering the head. We should not have anything on our head, on a hat or something. What do you think about it? Anybody have thoughts about this? Why is it required? Why is wearing hat not respectable?
I know in Western culture, like taking off your hat when you're speaking to someone or when you walk inside of a building is just a sign of respect. So I'm not really sure why. I don't know, but I know that in our culture, it's a sign of respect when you have a hat on to remove it when you approach people or when you go inside of a building or something.
Yeah. Okay. That's another thing. I think this is more culture thing,
I don't
but
understand the cane one though.
yeah, if someone's difficult walking, that's I think that's that. But it is say if for health reason, we could cover our head or so forth. So if for health reason you need a cane to walk, I think that's permissible. Yeah, wouldn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then I think the most important is that do not teach him who have no respect. Okay, I think this is very important because in the Sutta, the Buddha also instruct Ananda never to spread the pressure teaching to those who lack faith or holds wrong view about Dharma. So doing so will cause the teaching to quickly disappear. So this is a warning to protect the Dharma. If you don't respect it, lack faith, the Dharma going to disappear. Okay. And also, why do we have to respect the Dharma? Because I think in Chinese there is a saying, the Buddhism or our understanding of Buddhism, our realization of Buddhism come from our respect, okay? The more we respect and treasure it, the more we benefit from it, okay? And the great yogi Milarepa endured all kinds of hardship to seek Dharma. Ultimately, he obtained it and then developed to practice it. Okay, and also if it's something is very difficult to obtain, which more people are treasuring, like for water sense, things obtained too easily are often not cherished. But if something is gained through great hardship and sacrifice, people tend to treasure it. Okay, just remember our ancestors or our Dharma lineage master, they endured a lot of hardship, at least from from Tibet to India and China to India to obtain the Dharma. So it's a lot of hardship is put in there. So we have, because the respect Dharma even more. Yeah. And what is the negative consequence of not to follow instruction? I think this sounds horrible, yes? Being indifferent, it reborn a long-eared donkey, reborn as a barking dog, or reborn a parrot. Of course, we had to believe in reincarnation, but these are the saint, the ayahs with omniscient ayahs. They know, where it is the past life all these animals are, so they can tell. So before we know it, we just don't dismiss the teachings and with open mind. See, because things cause the effect, there is correlation in there. Okay. Okay. Next one is a behavior to be adopted. The first one is behavior to avoid. Here, behavior to be adopted. Who has a now reading?
I can try.
Yeah.
Okay. Other mode of conduct to adopt. The above covers the mode of conduct to avoid. So now let's move to the conduct to adopt. The Jatakas says, take the lowest seats, cultivate the dignified bearing of the thorough discipline, with your eyes brimming with joy, drinking the words like nectar, and be completely concentrated. This is the way to listen to the teachings. What should we do? Take the lowest seats. Dharma student should sit lower than the teacher, not at the same level or higher. It goes against proper etiquette if the teacher is seated on a small chair in a lower position while students sit on comfortable chair placed higher. This principle also applies when receiving teachings through the videos at home. Many people place the TV or computer on the floor and sit in a higher sofa. unintentionally positioning themselves above the teacher's image. Although the teacher may not be physically present, the video still presents the teacher's form and should be treated respectfully. There is an example from the life of the great Jigme Phongso Rinpoche. While he was teaching in the great Dharma hall at Larunga, some disciples sat on the left stairway, which was higher than his Dharma seat. Rinpoche was visibly displeased and rebuked them, saying, "You are sitting higher than me, so I don't need to teach you anymore. It should be you teaching me. Don't you remember what the Vinaya says? Please get down." Likewise, when watching Dharma teachings on TV or a computer, try to sit on the floor if possible. If health condition or limited space during group study makes this difficult, then it is acceptable for a few people to sit on sofas, but the principle of showing respect should always be kept in mind. Cultivate dignified bearing of thorough discipline. When listening to teachings, you should remain gentle and dignified, and refrain from anger or other inappropriate conduct. With your eyes brimming with joy, you should look at the teacher with joy, but make sure you don't appear as ecstatic. If you have a big smile all the time, become overly cheerful, and even wave to the teacher, this is not good. The teacher is delivering the teaching. What is the point of waving to him? You just need to listen attentively to the teacher. Drinking the words like nectar and be completely concentrated. Sutra of the Meeting the Father and Son has a verse I really like. It says, "The Dharma teacher with skillful means is capable of showing the real path to nirvana. Those who aspire to seek peace and enlightenment shall venerate the teacher and stay close to him." Also, Lama Tsongkhapa says, if one practices the six transcendent perfection when study and practicing the Dharma, the power is tremendous. When practicing the Dharma, you should also check whether you have six transcendent perfections. If the answer is no, this means your practice is not impeccable. So those who aspire to enlightenment should rely on the teacher with joy and respect, follow him for a long time, and avoid all wrong modes of conduct.
Thank you. So I think this is pretty clear, repeating what we learned previously, more emphasis. And again, these days, our Dhammadism environment is very different. So we should pay attention what proper, although the situation might be a little bit different from what we described in the book here, tradition way of listening. Okay, so even sitting high here, this because the lecture room is arranged such. So even you sit higher, I don't think it necessarily cause infraction. Okay. Okay, some people believe the six perfection must practice one at one time to complete. For example, when practice generosity, one cannot simultaneously practice discipline and so forth. So actually, I think this we can encompass everything by learning. We could integrate them into daily life, make a natural part of your action, thought, and intention, and recognize that each parameter supports the other, and focus on ongoing practice and develop these virtues rather than striving for perfection. So even it's called perfection, even we are not perfect, try not to get frustrated because everything we work on inch by inch, build up slowly. That's what we can do for now. Okay. Also another thing, we could always practice six parameters in daily life. I think actually Pastor Rinpoche suggests we could do offering all the time. Okay, he said that you need never to think that you have nothing to offer. Whenever you or others have, and whatever you see, let your first thought always be to offer it to the three jewels and the root oriented lamas. Okay, we can mentally take whatever you find beautiful as you pass by, even pure water, flowing waters, or field flowers, and offer it all to the three jewels, thus perfecting the accumulation merit and wisdom and amid your other activities. So I think this is a good suggestion. And when we go to supermarket with all the food, nice food, you could just offer that. When you see beautiful men and women, you could offer them too. And also, not to mention a beautiful flower, a mountain, and so forth. So we could practice offering, and in the meantime, practice 6 parameters at the same time. Okay, as Kempo said, when practice Dhamma, we should always check whether we 6 transcendent perfections, okay? And always remain a joy and respectful mind, so forth. So we come to the end of the lesson. Actually, we finish the way of listening Dhamma. Today is the last lesson to go over there and just review. We had the 3, what to avoid, what to do. Okay, here, actually, I think I will go here. There we go. To begin with, the attitude, we had the vasatita bodhicitta. We compassion for, we want to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And the vast skill of a mantra is maintain pure view. Okay, and then what to avoid, the 3 defect part, 6 stands, 5 wrong ways of remembering, and all the text will have different detail. I'm not going to read it here because time. And then what to do, including the 4 metaphors. I think you all remember. Think yourself as someone who is sick. Think Dharma as a remedy, as the medicine. Think your spiritual friend as skillful doctor. And then diligent practice is you to recover. You take the medicine, okay? The 6 transcendent perfection we finished today and other mode of conduct. So from now on, we are going to go into the real meditation, starting from the pressures of human birth, okay? And in addition from that, okay, there's 4 thought, the turning the mind, freedom, advantage, the impermanence of life, the defect of samsara, and the principle of cause effect, okay? Actually, I think I put it wrong way. At the same time, we also have Longchenpa, the meditation series to start. Longchenpa wrote meditation guide, guided meditation for 92 of them. So we are starting one by one. So besides starting the text, we also begin our meditation. So you could say what we learned so far is preliminary of the preliminary, the how to listen to the Dharma. And these teachings are from the experience of the enlightened beings. So when we listen to Dharma, we don't waste our time or energy, and we get the maximum input from our correct attitude. So this is very nice. We learn all this, and we are ready to tackle the meditation and all the contemplation and so forth, okay? So to end for today, thank you very much for today. I don't think we have much time left. Oh, okay, perfect. It's 9:30. I want to remind everybody, I just want to remind everybody that a teacher is such an excellent example for us. Kento Rinpoche always advise students, as long as we can benefit sentient beings, if only one person generates one virtue thought through our effort, we should be willing to save that person for millions of years. This Kempo's aspiration. And Kempo's health is usually pretty poor. You could see that when you give it teachings, you could see this IV drip. And here actually is the drip, but he still give the teaching when he's not feeling well. And also another aspiration he had is, I don't know how long I will live, But as long as I have one breath in me, even if there were only one listener, I will try my best to benefit that person with the sacred Dharma. So I think we can all aspire in the same way. And this is the teaching he gave why the snow falling. Okay, just like when that describe, rain or shine, the Dharma, turning Dharma wheels continuous. Okay. So with that, let's dedicate our merit today. Jonathan, would like to read? Are you here? Could you please?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Yes. Please dedicate for us. And can we put our palm together? Yeah.
By this merit, may I attain the omission Buddhahood and overcome all enemies, the mental afflictions. May I liberate all beings from the ocean of samsara, unsettled by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Just as the warrior Manjushri attained omniscience and Samantabhadra too, all these merits now I dedicate to train and follow in their footsteps. As all the Buddhas of past, present, and future praise these aspirations as supreme, so now I dedicate all these roots of virtue for all beings to perfect good actions.
Thank you very much. And we could spend a few seconds dedicate to those close to us and may our merit bring them greater happiness and peacefulness. Okay.